right, you guys. So, tonight's call is going to all be about understanding how circadian patterns or circadian rhythms will help affect your digestion, your mood, your sleep. I really based our daily habit questions this week on like how it has affected your sleep, how it's affected your energy levels, because I think that's the first thing that you're going to be able to notice first. So I'll talk through the announcements first. I don't think we have any new people here. So I'll go ahead and roll through these and then we'll get into that topic, and hopefully y'all take away something that's useful for you that you haven't learned before. Some of the stuff I've said before, some of it's a little bit newer. So hopefully I'm catching you and teach you something new. But as far as announcements go, all assessments have been completed and returned to you. I wanted to go over some back to school tips because there's a lot of people that are sending kids back to school. There are a lot of teachers going back to school. Schedules are about to change. We're about to be like running to practices and games, like doing all kinds of craziness. So I wanted to talk through a couple of tips when it comes to like staying on track with this, because otherwise you're going to lose your mind. So crockpot and instant pot meals are going to be very, very helpful. I personally, with this one, I would suggest crockpot meals because they cook all day while you're gone, if that doesn't freak you out. But something that I would suggest is if you want to do like a crock pot type meal, is focus mostly on the meats. Don't feel like you have to have like some extravagant like casserole or meal or something like that. You can easily just throw the meat in the morning before you leave for work, and then it'll be ready by the time you get home from work, from school, from kids practices, from all the things. All you have to do is, heat up some vegetables or throw some potatoes on a plate kind of thing with the meat that's already done, that's fresh, right? And then you're gonna have leftover stuff for the next day as well. Typically that's going to be very, very helpful. Another little thing that I would really recommend, because a lot of us are trying to get these things going in the morning at like 5 in the morning, and we have kids in the house. We don't necessarily want to be unwrapping stuff or trying to open up containers or anything like that, because it's going to wake up the family. So majority of the crock pots that I've ever seen, you have like a shell that goes inside of the crock pot, right? Or with like my instant pot, you have a shell and it can turn into a crock pot. So if you want to do that, what I would say is put the meat and all the contents in there the night before into the shell and put it in the fridge, right? And then the next morning, all you have to do is take the contents out of the fridge, put it in the pot, close it, turn on the timer, and you're done, right? There's no unwrapping of anything. It keeps things quiet. It's much faster. It's much more seamless. It's going to be something that I've done before. It's something that I really, really suggest. It can be as easy as salsa chicken, right? The night before, chicken, thing of salsa, put it in the fridge, right? Ready to go the next morning. So easy. So keep that really, really simple, but keep that on the back of your mind. So you can easily have fresh meal for that night and then use some of it for the leftovers the next day. You know what you're doing. You're going to stay on track a lot easier that way. So there's that. As far as next week goes, I am traveling back to Illinois with her and Skylar to go see my family for the fair and hang out for a few days. So I'm still gonna get everything done per usual, but the group Zoom, instead of Thursday night, is going to be Tuesday night at 7 Central Time. So if you guys want to join for that, you are obviously more than welcome to. Next week's topic is going to be all about your personal ripple effect. The choices that you make right now, it's going to affect more people than what you realize, directly to you and indirectly to you. Your ripple effect, your choices, your positivity, your negativity are going to bleed into people you don't even know about throughout the day, throughout your life, throughout weeks and months and everything to come. So I'm going to talk about all that stuff on Tuesday night's call, and that's what next week's daily habits are going to be all about. So just be prepared for that. It's going to be a really awesome call, and it really gives you a different mindset and way to look at things, how to approach people, all of those kinds of things going into the week. So I love that we're going to do it Tuesday night. So it gives you that kind of outlook for the whole week. Oh, there's only 3 more weeks left of this challenge after this week is complete, which is super crazy because that last week is Labor Day weekend. Can you believe that it is already almost Labor Day weekend? That is insane. So I just wanted to remind you guys, don't forget to continue to sending in assessments and updating your pictures. By finishing this, you will also earn an invite to the St. Louis trip to hang out with our group at headquarters in January. So that's going to be a really, really fun time. All you have to do is complete the challenge, which is at a minimum completing your pictures on either end of the challenge. So be sure to get that done, get those turned in. But I do highly recommend taking the pictures, doing the assessment each week, even if you're not doing great, even if it's not perfect, right? All of those things, that feedback is going to help get you to be more accountable. It's going to help, get you to move in the right direction more so than if you didn't. So yeah, that's all of those pieces. If you have questions about that, all let me know. Otherwise, please continue to share about the group, about the app, about podcasts, YouTubes, anything like that I've posted that you find helpful. When you guys share those and you tag me in them, I so appreciate it. It's amazing to see that ripple effect happen. And then also, please continue sending over your first form orders as you make them. That's always super appreciated, and it helps me a ton to be able to double check on those and know what you guys are grabbing so that I can follow up with you on them after you get them as well. So that's all of those things. So I'm going to move on to the topic for tonight. We're going to talk all about circadian effect. So I absolutely I'm amazed by this topic. So I've done a ton of reading, I've done a ton of research on it, and I just absolutely am blown away by it. So it has everything to do with the natural light and lining up your internal clocks on all of your cells. So a lot of people thought we have an internal clock and it's just like in our brain, right? But it's actually every single cell in our body has its own little internal clock. And so they all get triggered by seeing natural light, by seeing darkness, by reducing blue light, by reducing when we eat certain things, what time we go to bed, consistency with bed and wake times. All of those things are going to make a big difference in the circadian effect and how that affects those internal clocks. So we were made to rise, sleep, eat, etc. based on sunlight, because until electricity happened, that was the only time that we could see anything, right? It would have been kind of hard to go grab a sandwich at midnight when you were not having electricity, right? You can't see anything. If you go outside, you might get eaten by a tiger. So we don't do those things. But so that's kind of something that I want you guys to kind of understand. It's we were programmed to live, not how we're living. So it makes a lot of sense that our eyes, our body, our brain, everything responds differently when we're in nature, when we're in that natural environment, where we're seeing that sunrise, seeing that sunset. If you can do both, that's even better. But by learning how your body reacts to lining up to the circadian rhythms, you'll likely reap some benefits that you weren't even aware of. So I'll go through a lot of that stuff here throughout this, but I wanted to go through some of the research first. So if you guys want to do more research on this, learn more about this, there are a few people that I have grown to listen to that I quite enjoy, and this is their specialty. So there's Dr. Amy Shah. I've talked about her a lot of times. Her podcast with Mel Robbins is the one that I shared in the app the other day. She's done a ton of research on this. There's also Dr. Andrew Huberman. He has a podcast. I will warn you, his podcasts are usually 2 to 3 hours long. So be prepared to be committed to that if you want to listen in. But very, very interesting information, not just about this, but about everything. And then there's also Dr. Panda. I think his first name is Sacha, but I could be wrong. But he's been on a number of podcasts with Max Lugavere, which is the Genius Foods guy. So you guys have probably seen me share some of his stuff as well. But they all focus on how circadian rhythms affect us. And it's just been very, very interesting to put a lot of the stuff into purpose and into effect. So one of the main things, which is one of the things that was on our habit board this week, stopping eating at least 2 hours before bed, exposing your eyes and skin to natural light in the morning, and cutting off caffeine earlier can all lead to synchronizing your internal clock and be more, have more of an optimal working microbiome. So the more synchronized your cells and your microbiome are, the more you may notice digestion improving, sleep improving, energy improving, even mood improving, right? Because who isn't in a better mood when we sleep better and we don't have a gut ache? That's totally legit. It has also been shown to be effective at lowering stress levels and therefore reducing disease, brain fog, and that lethargic feeling. So all these things really play into that role. A quick overview, because a lot of people hear the word microbiome and they don't really know what that means. So microbiome are all the little bacteria that live in the gut. So they balance each other out, good and bad bacteria. And by following these guidelines, you can vastly improve how they function. So it's really quite interesting. But I'll dive into specifically how the microbiome is affected here with the gut and when we're eating and everything in just a few minutes, but you will find a lot of connections there. The first one I did want to go over though is that first question on the daily habits, which is caffeine cutoff. I like to say by 2 p.m., but why? So caffeine is a stressor that can make cortisol stay higher in the body by keeping the fight or flight mode on for too often, right? So what that caffeine does is it hits your body, it hits your bloodstream, and it releases that fight or flight response, which is cortisol from your adrenal glands. What that is going to do is it basically sends fire alarms off in your body saying we need to be alert, we need to be focused, and we need to be doing work to survive, to get through things, to gather supplies, right? It's telling your body that you need to be getting things done so that you can survive. That's why when you drink caffeine in the morning and you sit down to do your work or go to your workout, you are effective and you are awake, right? That is why that works. However, if we take that caffeine shot in, at 5 o'clock on the way home from Starbucks, that is going to send the wrong signals to our body, right? We don't want to be spiking that cortisol and spiking that fight or flight in the evening, because if we do that, it's not going to wear off in time before you go to bed. It's actually been shown to affect sleep quality well after consumed. So I know there's a lot of people that can say, well, I can have a Mountain Dew or I can have a coffee or a whatever, 10 minutes before bed and still fall asleep. Well, that's great, but that's all light sleep. You're going to really, really struggle with degraded REM and deep sleep, which is where we process our memories. That is where we reduce brain fog. That is where we rebuild our body. That's where we build our muscle tissue. That is where we do all of the big things that are really, really important. So we really need that REM and deep sleep. And if we are reducing quality by taking in caffeine too late in the day, then we are going to start to screw up that circadian rhythm, because you're going to be wide awake or your brain's going to be still firing on flight or flight when you're trying to sleep, and it's going to throw things off for you. Cortisol is naturally highest in the morning, so reducing things to add to cortisol in the evening and afternoon could be very, very helpful to improving the process of this. Morning sunlight is absolutely huge. It's important. I try to get out there for like at least 5 minutes every morning before I get in my office and just go for a quick little jaunt up and down the road. But your eyes can send messages, or actually they do send messages to receptors in your brain, which sends the messages down to your gut via the vagus nerve. That's a whole new conversation we'll touch on another day. And that is going to wake your gut up and wake your microbiome up. And it's going to say, we need to start working. We need to start digesting. We need to start thinking. We need to start doing like all of the things, problem solving. And it really gets things moving. So it's going to wake that digestion up. It's going to wake the brain up. It's going to allow you to having clearer thinking. All of those things are going to happen if you start to see that natural light first thing in the morning, right? That's going to be very, very, very helpful. And it doesn't matter if it is like overcast, rainy, it doesn't matter if it's cold or if it's still the moonlight. Your eyes can tell the difference between a sunrise and a sunset, even if you can't, right? So if you get out there and your eyes see the moon at a certain phase, it can tell, which is so crazy to think about, because I can't tell, but my eyes know. And therefore my gut microbiome knows. So with all of that being said, get out there, see that natural light in the morning. You don't have to stare right at the sun. Please don't do that. But just like be outside without sunglasses on in the morning. It's going to help a lot. Consistent and earlier bed and wake times are absolutely huge to help with circadian effect as well. Reason being is up later means that you're likely exposed to more artificial and blue light, which is, you guys looking at me right now. So sorry about that. That's the blue light blockers. That's why we do that. But that's going to slow down the sleep patterns, and it's going to reduce the rate and the timing when the melatonin will start to secrete into your body. Melatonin, serotonin, those are the things that make us sleepy, make us want to shut down, want us to go to sleep. And that is going to be very, very helpful. But if we're exposing our eyes to blue light by watching TV, looking at our tablets, looking at our phones, scrolling randomly until later hours in the night, or even while you're laying in bed at night, that's going to cut back on the amount of time that you actually get quality rest. So that is something to be very, very, very cognizant of. Consistency and earlier times show that the body gets more into a routine and will help producing and releasing the melatonin and serotonin at peak times to help optimize sleep and recovery. Like my body and my brain is so used to being tired and ready for bed come like 8:30, 8:45. You can ask Shay. I fall asleep on the couch every night, and she puts herself to bed because she's basically a young adult. She makes Skylar turn off the TV and brush his teeth, and they go to bed together. And I wake up at 9:45 and go, oh, that happened again, right? Like every night. So like my body is so in tune with going to bed at a certain time. That's why I turn into a pumpkin. If Rob says we're going to go out on a date, I said, oh, could we go on a date at 3? So I can be home by 8. Is that okay? Because that's who I am now. And it really helps to stay in somewhat of routine most of the time. You don't be a hermit all the time. You don't have to be in bed by 8:30 every single night of your life, right? But I mean, your body's going to prefer it. The other thing that I did want to talk on is the time of the last meal at night. So why is that important? Because this is something that I used to struggle with highly. I would have my like dinner or supper, whatever we want to call it. And then I would struggle. I'd be like, oh, but I'm going to be hungry. I must save some sort of treat right before bed. And then there I was having this massive mug cake. Kinsey, you understand me. We've been there. All of a sudden we're filling the mug cake with all of the things. And our mug cake is now accounting for like 600 calories of our day. Right? So you're trying to eat that right before you go to bed. Okay, well, it's great that the mug cake's full of protein, right? But here's the thing that happens when we eat so close to bed. Your gut needs a break from digesting. So like we were talking about earlier, the microbiome, it's full of all those little microbes, right? It's full of the little bugs that are in there. They are supposed to be sleeping when we're sleeping. Now, if you feed them a giant mug cake or chicken or donuts or popcorn or soda or whatever you're having right before bed, then it's going to wake those little babies up, and they're going to be trying to do all their work, and they're trying to digest everything. And it's going to be sending signals that, oh no, it's not time to go to bed yet. We're still working. We're still digesting. We can't go to sleep until we're done. And it's going to reduce how well you sleep at night. It is so crazy. If we have a date night and I have something to eat after like 8 o'clock at night, I do not sleep well. I don't even know. It's like it happened overnight. I started doing this. I started sleeping better. And now if I try to go off the rail for even a night, I'm like, what? It's not working anymore, right? I have to follow it for the most part. And it just makes me feel better. So your stomach being full of food will disrupt that sleep pattern. It'll delay that gut rest, which all leads to that poor mood, higher stress levels in the body because you're not getting as high quality of sleep. When you're not getting high quality of sleep, then you're going to have that mood fluctuation the next day. You're not going to want to get that workout in the next day. You're not going to want to get up when your alarm goes off the next day. Ripple effects. It's all ripple effects. This will also be the how you optimize digestion by allowing the MMC, which is called your migrating motor complex in your gut, to clear and clean out the gut at night, right? So when you hear your stomach growl or grumble, that is your MMC at work doing some cleaning because it's actually empty. And that's not necessarily a sign of hunger, but it is a sign that your body is clearing out the gut. It's getting rid of any of the extra leftover stuff, and it's really making that environment great. Okay. So, the MMC needs some relaxing too. If we're eating for 14 to 18 hours a day, like so many Americans are, then your gut never gets that rest, which means you never get that rest. So those are all those pieces. It's a lot of information. So the key takeaway that I have for you, we always want to strive to optimize the gut microbiome function and reduce stress as much as we can. Those are the biggest things I want you to focus on. So circadian routines will help a ton with both of those if you do choose to follow them, at least some of them. But all of them lead to less bloat, better energy, better mood, better sleep, better body composition, less illness, everything. So that is what I have for you guys tonight. I kept it at about 20 minutes. That's pretty darn good. Do you guys have any questions on this, on anything else that I can help with? They don't have any questions for me.
I'm surprised.
All right. You want to say bye?
Bye.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Thanks, everybody.